Welcome to Rock Your Talk. I'm Lisa Reid. We have our expert interview series today, and I have Eric Nelson here as our expert. I'm with Productive Learning, as well as the founder of Get Speaking Gigs Now. And each session, we are bringing you experts to share some really helpful tips depending on what their industry is about. So, Eric Nelson, welcome to the show. We're glad to have you here, and tell us a little bit about what you do. You're very busy. You do a lot of great things.
I do. Thank you. I'm so excited to be here, and I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with me. Like you said, my name's Eric Nelson, and I work for a company called TrueMark Homes. We are we're home builders located in Southern California. We also have a presence in Northern California, and my role is focused on community development, which in simple terms is government affairs, community outreach, with the goal of obtaining project approvals. And then as a side job, I guess, or another part of what I do is I sit on our city's planning commission. So I'm the vice chair of our planning commission. I've been on that since for about 6 years now. And, you know, things are changing pretty dramatically in the government affairs and the public hearing space. And we are going to have our first meeting next week.
And that's
I do
the city
have
of Dana
a couple
Point.
other.
That's
correct.
Dana
Yes.
Point. So very exciting to see
Beautiful
all the
city of
developments
Dana
coming.
Point.
It's beautiful, and
Yeah.
there's been so many improvements or upgrades. It's a great city already, but to see all the new projects is very exciting.
Yeah, some great stuff going on with the harbor renovation coming, and just some really good stuff. You know, the hope obviously is that as tourism is dying down right now, it's putting a strain on all of our local businesses. So, you know, anything we can do to support them is highly appreciated.
Absolutely. So shop Dana Point, shop your local market,
Shop Dana
wherever
Point,
you
yeah.
are, wherever your city is. Make sure and support those businesses that are able to be open for business right now, or purchase a gift certificate for the future or something like that.
There you go. You know, Productive Learning is also in Dana Point. So
yeah, we're in Capistrano
it's
Beach.
great.
Yes, it's
Right.
like, yes, right next
Which
door.
is Dana Point.
It is.
Just yeah, just a different name. Yeah, officially it's Dana Point. We let them call it Capitol Beach. It's okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I know you were going to share tips, really like some leadership tips for people, because you're leading really big projects. So you have a unique perspective on leadership, and you're part of our conscious leadership circle at Productive Learning. So I know you've, you know, for years been developing your own leadership style and take that very, very seriously, and who you lead. So what tips were you going to share with us today?
Well, yeah, I think, you know, when I got your request and there were some questions, I sort of looked at them and thought, where can I add value? Where can I share some of my own experiences? And I could talk a lot about the housing industry and land use issues and how you do community outreach. And you know, frankly, there's a limited amount of people that would be able to take something from that, I think. But what I do have a ton of experience with is leading teams. And I've got experience leading teams through really dark times. So I was employed through the '08 Great Recession. At the time, we had 175-ish employees. My team had, you know, somewhere in the neighborhood of 15 who were direct reports. And, you know, over a period of a year, I had to let them all go. And, you know, I did learn so much from that experience. It was horrible for everybody involved, probably more for those people that got let go. But it was tough for me as a leader to have to do some, you know, we have to let people go for the sake of the company. It was not fun, but I walked away from that experience with a different perspective and a lot of interesting things that I could share to help. And so that's sort of why I picked these tips. So the first one is to get engaged. What I learned early on in '08 was that people get scared, and rightly so, when things like what's happening now are going on, or what was happening back then. You know, fear is a powerful emotion, and it can certainly derail your team. So you got to get engaged with them. Now, I'm talking daily check-ins, whether it's 15 minutes, just to see how they're doing, and then one big check-in at the end of the week, and sort of like, you know, see how things are going, take their temperature. It's going to give you as a leader a perspective on what they're dealing with, but it will also give you some information about, you know, projects that they're working on, so that in the event you do have to let them go, unfortunately, you're not going to be blind to what was going on in their world. But at the same time, that's when you can start those communications with your team that things aren't looking good and people are going to be let go. My team, I sort of made a commitment that they're going to know 30 days in advance. If anything's going to happen, you'll know 30 days before it happens. I got that commitment from our CEO that I could do that. And it helped with them knowing that they had a little bit of time before they were going to be let go. And even the ones that I had to let go, we still had 30 more days to work together to build on to whatever they were working on and to hopefully help them transition into whatever they want to go do. So I definitely tip one is get engaged.
I think that speaks to
Tip,
your ethics too, or your how you want to do business, right? It's like we can, even in these tough times, there's a way that we can go, okay, let me align that to my core values and how I want to show up and who I want to be, and how do I want to show up for other people, especially in times that are, those tough conversations. I know when I've had to let people go in the past as well, and when you have that uh, trusted relationship with someone, even though it's a difficult conversation that nobody wants to be having, you can still maintain the relationship, and say, have dignity and respect on both sides when you have engaged them and you show that you care.
correct. And you frankly, these are people I still talk. Most of the people that work for me, I still communicate with them on a monthly basis, sometimes on a weekly basis. I'm part of their social network because they were almost like family to me. And
Yeah.
because I don't work with them anymore doesn't mean I'm not connected to them. And so, yeah, my values certainly speak to, dealing with people with dignity and humanity, and realizing that the things that we have to do as leaders sometimes impact their home life or their professional life in a material way. And being able to understand that really sort of leads into that. And my next tip, which is to have compassion and empathy.
Mhm.
Today are the days when those are just you'll get more done today with compassion and empathy than you will with brute force and intimidation.
Right.
And I think brute force and intimidation works in short spurts, but when everybody's stressed out, it's probably the worst thing you could ever do. um, you know, what I know about stress and what I know about what happens to people in situations that we're in now is that our coworkers and the people we spend the most time with during the day are the ones that are going to be impacted, and virtually, or not virtually, but potentially have to deal with your anxiety and your stress. So, or on the other side of that is you're going to see that, and it may show up in their work, and not understanding and being compassionate. And again, I'm not saying people shouldn't be held accountable for what they're supposed to do, but holding people accountable with a little bit of compassion and understanding may be the difference between having a super productive employee or somebody who can't get anything done because they're way too stressed out. It's I think it's a critical piece right now with how we're all having to work, in really stressful environments in many cases.
And given how you have, personally, professionally developed your own maybe intuitiveness in terms of managing people, and this, I'm sure this has been over time. Um, how do you, like certain people handle things certain ways, right? So as a leader, how do you have that compassion for somebody, and like, but knowing that there still needs to be a job done? Like, how do you approach that kind of situation for someone?
Well, it's to your point, it's different for everybody. And I learned that, early in my leadership career around how I talk to people. And certain people, you have to talk to them in a certain way than other people. I mean, they're co-workers of mine that I can get into very robust arguments with, and it doesn't affect them, and they don't feel attacked, and it's very productive. And then there's other people that have to be where we just talk in a different manner.
Yeah.
I use a different tone of voice, not because I'm trying to get my point across in a different way, but because they receive it better that way. And so I always have to look at who my audience is and tailor the message to the person and to the situation at hand. If that hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, well, and I think that's because we're so taxed right now with COVID and shelter in place. Even the smallest things are different. Going to the grocery store. So just like simple everyday something you're trying to get complete or done. there's maybe irritations are higher or patience is lowered. And so it's like, and people are worried about the future and such. So I would
Right.
imagine that as a leader, it's becoming bigger than just the job. It's like, okay, how is this person managing at all? And what do
Right.
I know about them? And then how can I then engage with them so that we still achieve what we need to achieve, but like you said, being really compassionate and respectful to that person as well.
Right. And that really, frankly, comes out of that first tip, which is if you're checking in with your team on a daily basis, you're going to get to an understanding of where they're each one of them are at. And I think, within that check-in with for leaders, being open with what's going on with you is helpful. You don't have to give them all that, all the details, but if you're scared, it's okay to actually tell your team, hey, look, I'm concerned just like you are. Being transparent with what's going on will engage in a way where your team will actually feel comfortable sharing what's going on with them. We all want to put on a strong face, and lead our team, but sometimes leadership with emotions and with transparency is a better way to go. And again, these are all
Absolutely.
very specific situations, and I wouldn't suggest that you start
Right. It's not a broad
with your
paintbrush.
team and
Yeah.
exactly, but start off with a Kleenex
Yes.
and tears. But I would tell people that if something's going on with you, that you could share that, and so that people, when what I know about employees, what I know about myself, is that if I'm picking up energy and I don't understand it, I might take it personal. I may take it that there's something going on between me and my boss, and he's not telling me, and then I start to think about it, the worst possible scenario, when it may be just my boss is worried about his family, or something going on with him is completely disconnected from me. I don't think it's abnormal for most employees to worry that their boss is upset with them at times. And so by
Very
sharing
normal.
that stuff, it keeps people at ease and lets them stay productive and focused.
Right, because if they don't know, there's that empty space, right? There's that, like, I wonder if they're mad at me. Well, what did I do? And then it's like, not just I wonder if they are. Then it's like, well, maybe they are, and why would I? And what would? And then the mind wants to fill that hole with something, and
Correct.
answer that question. So I agree with you. The more you can engage and just be like, I'm checking in with you. How are things going? Any updates? And you get to see their, if it's on a Zoom call, of course, then you have more data to check their nonverbal cues.
Right.
And, or if it's on the phone call, you can, perk your ears up and listen more
Listen
intentionally.
closely.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
All right.
For the screaming kids, and because these people, most of our people are now at home, and they're in some cases both parents work because their kids were in school, and now those kids who were were taken care of during the day, probably the wrong word, but there was somebody else responsible for what they were up to and their safety, are now at home with two parents who are trying to work from the same
Yes.
place at the same time, have their kids either in some type of virtual school or some productive environment, not have them jammed in front of the TV all day. And that's got to be difficult. I don't have two children at home, got a couple dogs. They're frankly very easy. They curl up right at your feet and they leave you alone most of the day. So yeah, it's critical to really know what's going on with your team, especially
Yeah.
now.
And I think it's as we, I'm looking forward past this time that we're in. I think it allows us to be more compassionate just as a human race, because I was on a call earlier today, and a little kid came into the Zoom room with mom and cuddled up in her lap, and she was like, oh. And I said, what a beautiful thing to see a child cuddled up with their parent. Like, I
Sure.
think that's beautiful. And there was no disturbance. And if there was, I'm sure she could have muted it. And, but just
It's bring your kid to work month.
Yeah, bring your kid to work quarter or something.
Yeah,
Hopefully
there you go. Yeah.
And then I know you had another tip too.
Yeah, I've got two more. So,
Oh
the
yeah,
third
because you
one
have
really
bonus
is
ones.
about, I have a bonus, yeah, because I really struggle with, there's a couple that I think are just important, in general. And so I'll go quick, but, being a leader, leading a team doesn't necessarily mean you're leading a company. But being a leader can be lonely. I mean, if you're at the top of your team you can't lean on your team for support most of the time. They need your support in order for them to get their job done. And so, that's one of the reasons I'm part of CLC. I've been a part of, productive learning for, I want to say, over 20 years now. It started a long, long time ago. And having a place to go where you can be around people that are your peers, or not your peers, but they operate in, a capacity that would be, high level business, and can give you input, feedback, and support you is critical. And having a network around you, personally. So I have 3 friends. Every Sunday night we go to dinner. We've been doing that for 16 years now.
Wow.
And we can't go to dinner anymore, but what we can do are calls like this. So we're now meeting each other online every Sunday night and still connecting virtually. Which, again, when we all 3 of us met, none of us were married. We were all working and just trying to wealth build and sort of do that stuff. And now we've all got families, and we've all have our separate lives. We always come back together, and having those people who know who you are, to know what's going on, and can call you out, or say, hey, look, something's going on. I can tell you're just not yourself. Is critical, especially for leaders, that they have that support network. Again, so you're not taking the stuff that's challenging you, either to your team or to your home, and impacting your family.
Yeah, it sounds like
So
it's
that would be my third big one.
yeah, it's like your own emotional health, like your own, like sometimes, even if it's our spouse, that person can't be everything to us, right? So you're mentioning you've got your executive peer group, you said CLC, it's Conscious Leadership Circle. We call it CLC because it's easier.
That's what we call it, yeah.
Yeah, and then you also have your friends who's another, it sounds like another very strong relationship of people that are, in a peer relationship where you can have fun. And so having those different, maybe say networks, which maybe people don't always think of their friends as a network, but that can fill you and keep you, one of the pieces that can keep you emotionally healthy through times like these, or just in general. You've been doing this for 20 years, 16 years. Yep. So it's a
and they know what's important to me. They know what my goals are. They know where I want to go, and they know where I don't want to go. And so when they see me headed in a direction that I've said, look, I don't want to keep doing this, whatever this is. These are the people that say, hey, wait, this isn't inconsistent with what you've said. And they can call me out, and I'll listen to them. Because I know that they've got my back. I know that they're people that I could trust, and they only want what's best for me, not necessarily what I want, but what's best for me. And that's important anytime, no matter what's going on in the world.
It takes a lot of courage and strength to have those kind of relationships. So very commendable. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's great. I mean, it's taken years to build those relationships, and I'm so grateful that I took the time, the energy, and what's been challenging at times to keep those relationships, because they're really what kind of holds me together at times when I'm struggling with something. So if people aren't doing that, that would be a strong suggestion to start building your network now, because it can't hurt. I guess that's the bottom line, is it can't hurt you.
Right. And sometimes people think like, oh, what's the payoff? And I'm like, well, you don't necessarily know, and you don't know what sometimes there's been different groups that I've joined for what I originally thought was one reason. But then as I look back, I'm like, wow, I had no idea this is what I was going to get out of this experience. But just because I stepped into it and said yes, it can be very powerful.
I think the thing sorry to cut you off there.
Nope, you're fine.
I was going to say, I think the thing that I miss every once in a while, and is an important piece, is what we're giving too. So those people we're in relationships with, they're getting something from us, and I don't mean that in a negative way, but if you're not in those relationships, you may be depriving them of some of your gifts. So your absence of those relationships are really, have a net effect going outward too. So it's a two-way street, and my belief, and my hope is that I enrich the lives of the people that I'm engaged with.
Absolutely. Well, I have a feeling you are.
Yeah, thank you.
You're the first person to offer a bonus tip, so I can't wait to get this bonus tip.
Bonus tip is adapt and do it quickly. And what I've seen from the 2008, the Great Recession to now, and then just all over the place, is that those who can adapt quickly in challenging times are resilient. Things are changing so fast right now that those people that are delaying or questioning, this is going to end quickly, are maybe left in the dust, so to speak. And I know from my company, we adapted before everybody else. We were prepared on the 11th to push everybody out. We did that as a company, and then for my role, part of my job is to actually go out and meet with a lot of people. That I spend countless hours in community meetings, literally walking neighborhoods where we have projects to try to introduce myself and our company and what we're doing, to get feedback. And this is sort of our outreach process. I can't do that anymore. And so one way to not adapt is to just wait, which is one option. But what I know about waiting is that those cause delays, and delays are bad in business. So we're already starting to reach out with our using the virtual connections that we're using on Zoom right now. And we haven't got all the way there yet, but we've already shifted the way we're going to do this, and we're one of the first to do this, and super excited about it. And what I know is we're going to be ahead of the game, because this is going to potentially drag on for a little bit of time. And if I wait another 2 weeks or another month in the hope that things change and they don't change, then I'm now going to be 3 months behind.
Right.
So being willing to adapt and change, equals resilience. And so that would be my bonus tip.
Love it. Yeah, I agree. I mean, we've done that as well at Productive Learning. We're 28 years now, in-person workshops, and we're like, we luckily we're planning a few months back to bring some virtual options. So we were already planning this, but this definitely sped the journey up. And it's also, I mean, and I think people will see positives out of this. Of course, there's we already know the negatives, but there's going to be a lot of positives, I think, in innovation, new ways to connect. Your team was probably going to come up with some amazing way to connect the communities and get the feet on the ground without actually being on the ground. I mean, I'm sure that there's going to be some really great innovations from this whole experience.
Yeah, I've already seen it. I mean, I've already seen multiple groups that I meet with, where I have conference calls every month that are across the state, statewide organization that I'm on the board. And, we did a call yesterday, and for the first time I saw everybody.
Yeah.
And what we decided after that call was like, look, let's do it always like this. We don't have to do this. We can always do Zoom. Why are we doing Zoom, even if we're back in the office? So, that's a nice, takeaway from this. If we walk away, it's just that we're a little bit more connected to some of those people that we never were connected with. That's a great thing. I learned how to cut my own hair this month.
Wow. Oh, you're gonna have to share. We're gonna have to do another show.
So yeah, I mean, I think you got to be willing to take on and adapt and do things differently, and this is certainly helping. And I think the last one, and you did have a question about sort of how do I stay sane?
Yeah.
And I didn't want to miss that piece. I don't know
sane,
if
but like keep your healthy mindset. Yeah, I know you're sane.
And that's hobbies. I mean, I got to tell you, in 2008, I was a mess mentally. I mean, I had to do what I had to do, and every day was tough because I was having to say goodbye to people that I truly cared about. At the same time, worrying, am I going to have a job in a month? And I had, up until that point, always dabbled in photography. When I was in high school, I took a photography class. This is back before digital cameras, and so we were developing our own film. So in 2008, I started to really dig into my photography as a hobby. And so after work, I would go home and I would just lose myself in my photography. And I did some really great projects for myself, where I had goals. And, I did a 365-day narcissistic photo project. This is long before the selfie was popular. And what that did is it provided an outlet for me to get that stuff out of me, so that when I was with my, at the time, my fiance, I wasn't, spilling out my anxiety and my angst and my upset on her, that we could actually have a relationship separate from my challenges. And then, now I'm just trying to find the next hobby, because as that photography turned out really well, it became, I won't go into the details, but other than to say that, it became a nice little side hustle for a while. I got published, I got some notoriety, and I had just some amazing I've met some amazing people during that really tough few years, and now I'm looking for that next hobby. So if
Hmm.
anybody out there's looking for, what it is, what could I do? Think back to when you were in high school, or even now. Do you like to fiddle around in the garage or go plant flowers? I don't know. Everybody's got sort of their thing,
Hmm.
but hobbies are so important, and they're more important now. And frankly, saved my life in a weird
That's
sort of way.
great.
I wouldn't say saved my life, but it certainly kept me sane.
Yeah, and that's important, doing things like kind of going back to that, okay, well, what can I do? Like I have always enjoyed doing jigsaw puzzles, and yet there could be a year that goes by that I don't do one, or 2 years or three,
Right.
depending on, because it takes time, you gotta set it up and all this stuff. And so I'm like, I'm breaking out my jigsaw puzzles. Let's do this. And
Nice.
found out there's a lot of people that I know who like doing them too. There's people that don't like them, but that's okay. Um,
Right.
that's okay. We all have to find our thing. And like you said, yeah, it might be planting, or maybe it's hiking, obviously with social distancing in mind, and all your health structures in mind. But I agree, where we can, because of our smartphones and our online access, we can end up working uh, a lot, and
Yeah.
losing sight of those other things that really brought us joy in a different way, and access a different part of ourselves, and just like kind of like, I don't have to think about that, I'm going to go do something else. I like
Right.
Zumba
Yeah.
too, where you probably do Zumba, right, Eric?
Oh yeah, all day long.
um,
And bar and
yeah.
stuff like that.
But I have to, because it changes, each routine changes. I can't think of anything else when I'm doing Zumba.
Sure.
I'm just focused on that. And so it's a great way to get exercise, have fun, enjoy the music, move my body, and escape, just let my mind not think of work or whatever else is
Right.
going on. And it's a really healthy way to spend my time.
Yeah. I mean, I think that because the line between work and home now is super blurry, and
Hmm.
it may be the difference between closing a door and not closing a door.
Yeah,
That yeah, having a regimen around where work starts and where it begins and ends is even more important. And so that we do have space where we're not just sitting in front of our computer working and
yeah,
sending out emails at all hours of the night.
exactly. I love it. Well, thank you so
Yeah,
much for being on our
my pleasure.
show. This was great. And it's so cool
Super
because,
honored to be here.
yeah, you and I see each other quite frequently over the years, but we've never had a one-on-one conversation like this. So we've already had a benefit. We already had a benefit from
Yeah,
it.
it's great
So
to see your
great.
face, like we said earlier, and I know I'll see you again physically, but in the meantime, this was great and really nice chatting with you. Definitely, and appreciate you taking the time to talk with me.
Yes. So thank you. And
Thank you.
we're looking forward. We'll see you all on the next episode. And just remember, be good to yourself and be good to someone else too.